That's how people know me.
Okay, yeah. All right, we're at PAX East with Nuchallenger, looking at the game Treachery in Beatdown City. I'm with Shawn, and yeah, I just got a chance to play the game. Arcade fighter, reminds me of Simpsons, the arcade game. Love that. Played really well. So the game kind of really tracked in difficulty. We got different ends of the game. And how does it play when you got the full game? How does the difficulty spike kind of ramp up?
So yeah, the demo is designed specifically to make people fail or make them feel amazing for beating something. The last fight is probably maybe 2 hours into the actual game. And we actually, part of it was mostly showing an arc of characters, because we start you fighting this guy, CT Punk, right? He's kind of just like the Pidgey of our game. He lowers your accuracy. He's kind of like wiggly, like hard to hit, but when you hit him, he's very easy to beat. And then we give him a knife and make him a lot harder, and then give him another person with him to kind of show that, because like the first guy's easy, but put him with someone else or give him a weapon and then he's a lot harder. In the game, you get weapons 3 maps into the game. Okay. So like we try to let you learn all the characters without weapons, or a lot of the characters. So in like our first part of the game alone, like the first 5 levels, which is like the first like group, there's about 50 characters, but they come in different classes, and so it's all about, because we wanted to have a game that had a character to all the enemies. All the enemies are like very distinct, but they all have different classes, so you kind of have to learn it, not from just looking at them, but from how they fight. And then you're like, oh, it's that person, I grapple that person, no, it's that person, they're going to counter me if I grapple, etc. So we actually ramp you up trying to do one-on-one fights a lot, which is harder for a demo area, because people say, oh, well, this is easy, and it's just like, yeah, well, you want that when you're at home.
Yeah.
But here we have to show you like hours of the game in a very short amount of time, so that people are like, oh, I see.
Yeah.
And you know, at older shows we would have like people play our demo for like an hour because it was just the level.
Oh. Yeah.
But so we wanted to just give people a good sense of where the game's going in like 20 minutes or less, basically.
Yeah, so then there's different fight types, and you're learning all those different kind of balances, how people work out. And some of the characters had different health pools, so they can take hits, or they'll take more damage, but they can deal more damage, maybe do different things.
The problem with beat-em-ups generally is that enemies become too just like, you're just mowing down people.
Yeah.
And like I love Double Dragon 1, and I felt like in Double Dragon 1 on the Nintendo, you knew all of the characters. They all had names. There were only 8 of them.
Yeah.
But you knew when a Bobo showed up, things were about to get real, right? And so we wanted that in this, but like to give everybody a little bit more personality and give you some time to learn them, and then multiply that by a lot, because it's supposed to be a city, right? So it's like, I'm from New York, so a lot of these people are also just based on people or experiences I've had in New York.
Yeah. So the countering system is kind of, I mean, it's different than a fighting game, but it's similar to that, where you're matching up people for the right type of enemy and figuring out the right types of moves that counter the other types of moves. Did you look at other fighting games to try and see what could work in that?
I mean, because like I kind of build this game as 2 ways. I say Double Dragon meets Fallout 3, which a lot of people are like, oh, what? And then the tactics RPG, beat 'em up fighting game, wrestling game of your dreams. Because it's like basically all these games that I love. Like I grew up with like Final Fantasy and Street Fighter, so that's also another way to think about it, because it's all about like, or just, I get people who come back to me and they're like, this is like what a real fight's like. Because if you try to just uppercut someone in the street, they're gonna move. But if you fight them a bit, it's gonna be a little more difficult, like in a boxing match. So I mean, I played a lot of Fire Pro in the early 2000s. Like I'm friends with Suda51, who designed Fire Pro. I'm friends with Katsuhiro Arata, who like designed Tekken. Like I'm friends with a lot of people who made fighting games, and I played a lot of Street Fighter 4. And so it's all just been bleeding into my head over the years. And I really went back and I was like, well, what are the elements of these things that I want to convey?
Yeah.
So there's like Super Mario RPG's an influence, like all these things are influences, because I just wanted to make a fight that didn't seem stagnant, that was really dynamic. Even though there's a turn-based element of it, because one of my best friends would always say that turn-based RPGs were like terrible. He'd just be like, "This is the worst thing." I'm like, "But I love them." And I had to make a game that's like, no, but this game is very dynamic. You're still thinking, you're still moving. At the same time, you can stop, and you're not like, oh, a breath. People are like, what's the next thing that I gotta do? Because I'm in a corner, and if I don't do the right thing, I'm done. Even though time's stopped. And I like that there's still like a little bit of anxiety. And at the same time, the fighting mechanics make it so that people who aren't really good at twitchy beat 'em ups can play the game, because they're like, oh, I'll take a break. Be like, what do I got to do next? And then they feel like smart for doing the thing.
The movement of the game really reminded me of the Scott Pilgrim game. Like you kind of move all around the map pretty easily, but you had to focus on getting your attacks in. There was no stopping. So having that tactical element really allows you to kind of analyze what you're going to do, and that really breaks it up well. You're talking about the emphasis of characters, and there were a lot of dialogue in between the fights. So is there a full kind of narrative arc that kind of goes through the city as you're fighting different people?
Yeah, so the story of the game is President Blake Orama, in his third term, gets kidnapped while giving, he goes to the UN to give a speech about the ongoing rise of presidents getting kidnapped by ninjas. And then he gets kidnapped by ninjas. And so Lisa, who's like the character you start the game with, her dad is the chief of police, and the like dubious billionaire mayor suspends the police. He's just like, the police are not doing anything. I'm gonna have my police take over, and everyone's kind of like, what's going on? So your dad calls you and says, I need you to go get your friends and go find the president. And then along the way, it's like you're fighting people that are just on the street who are jerks to you. And, you know, I kind of wanted to give people a reason to fight, right? Like in beat 'em ups, you're like, oh, your girlfriend got kidnapped. And I'm like, well, what if there's just a lot of terrible things that happen to you? Someone steps on your shoes, or someone yells at you terrible insults, or they mistake you for a homeless person. It's like, and they don't want to accept no. Because, I mean, in New York, these are all things I've kind of run into. We have the one with the CD guy, and when people at PAX West would play the game, they'd be like, oh, I ran into that guy downstairs. So it's kind of like, and we also wanted to have like redeeming characters. So all the characters have some redeeming elements, but you still got to fight them. Because it's like kind of like, what if you could fight the people who treated you badly on the street, but then what if you also had to fight ninjas in a weird conspiracy at like the government level? So it's kind of mirroring, like putting like just real life like weird comedy situations with like 80s 90s action movie bravado.
It's really exciting. It played really well. Is there any track on the release of the game?
We're trying to get it out this year. No, we are getting it out this year, 2019. We were trying to get it out last year. We added some features, and I recommend not doing that if you ever want to release a game. And so right now we're just buttoning up stuff, and it's coming out on Nintendo Switch and PC this year. We don't know exactly when, but it'll be at a time where hopefully not a lot of other stuff is coming out.
Get a nice window in there for you. Anything else you want to say about the game?
Well, we also just released a single for the game. There's a theme. It's called Beatdown City. We Gonna Whoop Your Ass. It's on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, SoundCloud. I got to work with one of my favorite rappers, Open Mike Eagle, and another favorite rapper, Show You Suck. My musician in First Phase, and the beat maker / musician / rapper, this guy Too Mellow, who made like music for ROM 64. And is like a sound designer in games and stuff. So I got to bring all these people together to make cool raps for the song game, and it's pretty cool. It's like it's weird publishing music. It's harder than publishing games, oddly enough.
That's really strange.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a great show.
All right, thank you.
From Read Only Memories, which if you haven't played is a very similar style game to Snatcher, one of Hideo Kojima's original